In the evening of June 10th, the Beatles flew from Hong Kong to Sydney, stopping in Darwin to refuel at 2:30 a.m. Despite the time, hundreds of fans greeted them.
Welcome to Australia. Which one am I talking to?
Paul, how do you do? Thank you.
How do you do, Paul? I'm John Edwards. Yes.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, Paul, I've got a light. Paul, what sort of a trip have you had from Hong Kong?
Okay, yes, very nice.
Very nice. You're looking forward to... Oh, thank you, that's free smoke. You're looking forward, of course, to your Australian tour?
Yes, lovely. I didn't expect anyone to be here, though.
Not at this hour of the morning?
2 o'clock in the morning.
2 o'clock in the morning.
What time is it? Yes, 2 o'clock.
Well, it's certainly been a wonderful reception for you, Paul, and I gather you're looking forward to this Australian tour just the same as all the other ones.
Yeah, no.
Good.
True.
Now, who have we got next?
There he is. This is John Lennon.
John Lennon, the leader of the Beatles. I'm John Edwards.
Hello, John. Good name, that, John.
That's a wonderful name, John.
It's wet, cold and windy, and some 3,000 or 4,000 teenagers have been waiting, many of them right through the night, to welcome their idols, the Beatles from Britain. What excites you most about the Beatles?
Gee, that's hard to say. Yes, it's marvellous in their songs. Yeah, it's fantastic. They're marvellous in their songs and the way they act.
What about their hair?
They're lovely. People who don't like the Beatles should jump in the lake.
Derek Taylor described the landing in his book 50 Years Adrift. The plane touched down, sending huge rippling waves down the runway. Somewhere behind the pounding of the rain and the roar of the engines in reverse, there was another sort of noise. A high, relentless scream. A scream which went on and on. The fans. 5,000 of them. Drenched, bruised and battered by the rain, taut and jumpy with anticipation, heard. After the parade around the airport, they were driven, still completely soaked, to their hotel, the Sheraton, where they'd be staying in the 8th floor penthouse. When they checked into their hotel, their luggage hadn't arrived. So George was forced to join John and Paul on the balcony to wave to the crowds with a towel around his waist.
I'm sorry that the weather was so shocking. It could not have been worse.
Well, it's different, isn't it? You know.
Is it like that in Liverpool?
No, I've never, not as hard as that rain. I've never seen that, except for in Tahiti.
What? Rain in Tahiti?
Yeah, it rained a couple of days when we first got there. I thought it was the end of the world. It was like a monsoon.
What? How did you feel about getting wet through like that? I mean, that was a great thing to do for your fans.
We were having hysterics, laughing. It was so funny coming to Australia and getting on a big van, all soaking wet, you know. And at least the kids got wet for hours, you know. So we only got wet for about a quarter of an hour, which is not much compared to that, is it?
What upset me, John, was the fact you were wearing those new coachman coats, or Batwing coats for the first time. They must be ruined.
They're not, actually. We got them pressed as soon as we got in. They're all right.
The Hong Kong tailoring is all right, then?
Well, he was an Indian, actually.
I've just been advised, and Paul told me that this was not going to happen, that your next release in America is going to be a song called A Hard Day's Night. It'll come out on the 26th of June.
I think Long Tall Sally's the next release in America.
Well, according to Cashbox this week, it's a hard day's night.
Well, I'll give it. You know more. I only know what we...
No, well, that's
what
true.
happens in England, you know, because they all make their own singles out of the LPs everywhere else.
Say something for the Australians.
Hello, cobber. How's Wagga Wagga? That's all I can say. Didgeridoo and all that.
Thank you, John Lennon.
They were then able to get a few welcome hours of sleep. Jimmy Nicol stayed awake to visit local relatives, but by late afternoon, he joined the others back at the hotel for their first Australian press conference.
What did you think of your wet welcome today?
Very good. I thought they were very nice coming out in all that rain.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you enjoy the rain?
Oh, yeah, well,
funny standing there in your new coat.
Seeing as they got soaked, though, you know, we didn't mind, did
We'd like to pay a tribute for you coming on the open cut in that cut ground, because the kids have been waiting all night and they appreciate it.
Well, they deserved it, didn't they, waiting all night?
Yeah. Hope you're wearing drip-dry clothes, were you?
No, we thought it was going to be sunny.
Paul, what do you expect to find here in Australia?
Australians.
Do you have any acknowledged leader of the group?
No, not really.
Paul, we heard you stood on the balcony outside, is that right? Pardon? We heard you stood on your head on the balcony outside.
No, you don't have to hear some rumours.
You didn't stand in here.
How did the tickets go in Hong Kong? Did you get full houses there?
I think so.
Yeah. No, there was a few 5 quid seats.
You had 5 quid left. Yeah, they were a bit hot, weren't they?
I wouldn't heard it. I wouldn't see me in for 5 quid, did you? I wouldn't want to say anything.
For 2 bob.
Do you play the kind of music you want to play or the kind of music you think people want to hear?
No, we've been playing this kind of music for about 5 or 6 years or something like that. It's just rock and roll, it just happens we write it.
Well, what do you think made the difference that suddenly put you up above the other groups?
Well, we got a record contract.
Speaking of records, what record do you all agree on generally as your best recording? Not the best seller, but as the best recording musically.
You mean our favourite?
Well, we always like the one we just made, don't we? So it's Long Shot Sally for me.
This is your latest one?
I like it.
Well, it's quite new, you know.
I like it.
It's not even a single.
I like Sorry. I like You Can't Do That.
What do you like, Jimmy?
What about you, Jim? You haven't said anything.
Yeah,
How do you
like
feel,
that
Jimmy,
one.
being in with the Beatles?
Pardon?
How do you feel being in with the Beatles, the newcomers, standing in for Ringo?
It's a good experience, man.
How is
Marvellous.
Ringo?
He's much better. He joins them on Sunday.
What do you do then, Jim?
I go back to London and they're fixing up a band for me and I do some television.
And he's away?
Yeah, you've been progressing pretty well with your Beatle haircut.
Yeah, well, I've been growing it for about 3 months.
Are you individually millionaires yet?
No, that's another lousy rumour, wouldn't it?
Brian Epstein, a millionaire.
No, even he's not one, poor fellow.
Where does all the money go?
Well, a lot of it goes to Her Majesty.
She's a millionaire.
Isn't it?
George, if one of you stopped being a Beatle, what do you think you'd do?
I think I'd train elephants in the zoo.
That's quite
It's reported that you're the keen businessman of the group, is that right?
Well, yes, that's what it says in the paper. But, you know, I mean, I've never heard of it. There's a new one on me. And maybe, I don't know.
Do you have a contract to remain together as a group known as the Beatles? In other words, do you have contracts between yourselves?
Well, we've got a partnership.
There's some sort of
That's what you mean.
No, what I meant
Oh, you mean
possibly
personally,
could
does
George suddenly decide to leave the Beatles group? Could you do that?
I think he could.
Well, of course he could, because, I mean, we would stop him.
No, you know,
even
even
if
if
he
they
leave. But even
We'd have to keep him, you know,
Stanley on
struggling. I
stage.
think there is a
Not wanting to play.
there is a contract between the 4 of us, but if I wanted to leave, then they wouldn't try and stop me, or they wouldn't sue me, I don't think, would you, fellas?
No, you weren't. Many thousands.
In the evening, Derek, Mal, Neil, and Jimmy headed to the Checkers nightclub, where American singer Frances Faye had performed a racy, highly sexualized act. Faye took an instant liking to Jimmy, whom she invited to play the drums with her band during the evening's second act. Originally, the Australian tour only included Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. No Adelaide.
We were devastated, absolutely devastated.
Bob Francis was the big DJ in Adelaide, and he loved them too.
And she put the call out over the radio and said, I want to get at least 3,000 signatures. And if you can do that, then I think I can secure them to come to sleepy old Adelaide.
You went around to everybody you could and got them to sign it. You sat there with your mates making 20 different signatures, and everybody just worked to make sure it happened.
He ended up with 80,000 signatures. Some of them were written on toilet paper, apparently.
Did you look across that's a close picture he's taking, isn't it?
Fisheye will distort your face.
This is one of these fisheye cameras. George is sitting beside John and he's taking a picture of me from about 6 inches away. What is this camera? Did you buy it in Hong Kong?
No, we all bought them in England ages ago.
But this lens is a funny one called a fisheye. And actually, we hate having our pictures taken with them. Because when they come out, you know, it's just all distorted. You look like a dustbin or something. So I'm doing one of you. Get me all back.
Thank you very much. George is the boy who appeared in underpants yesterday.
Actually, it wasn't. It was a towel I had wrapped around me. But, you know, we were watching on TV and they were saying, I wonder why they're not coming out to wave. And there was no way we could tell them that we didn't have any dry trousers.
None of us had any clothes.
So anyway, in the end, we went, Paul and John got a pair of trousers from somewhere, and I went with a towel around me just to wave. You know, otherwise I think they might have thought we were trying to be funny.
This is Jimmy Nicol, who is perhaps the only member of the Beatles who's able to move around a little, although he does get mobbed. He appeared last night at Checkers with Frances Fade. You played drums with her, though, I believe, during her act, didn't you?
Yes, a whole second performance at the club, yeah.
Isn't this difficult to do, not having worked with her before?
If you've got soul, man, you can do it.
That's fine. Had you seen Frances before?
No, never.
Jimmy, have a wonderful time.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
Paul the Renegade always tries to get out of the hotel, but never does.
Me? No, not really. I just couldn't sleep last night, so I just decided to go and see what Sydney was like.
You're still a prisoner.
Find him, though.
A prisoner of his own fame, I think, and this is something we've talked about before. It happened in Karachi when you went out at 2:10 in the morning, yet you tried to venture forth in the heart of King's Cross at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, well, I'm a tourist at heart, you know.
You're not going to see much of Australia if this continues, though, are you?
You never know. One of these days I'll make it.
It was 24-year-old promoter Ron Tremaine's idea to dissipate the crowds along the highway to avoid massive boxed-in crowds and the area around Town Hall being gridlocked.
I was there. I was watching them come out of that plane. A dream come true. I was living a dream.
At the Adelaide airport, we drove out onto the tarmac and we parked right alongside as the plane was pulling up. Already, there are quite a few people at the terminal.
I got bitten by a toxic mosquito when I was 10 months old. My right arm doesn't work properly, my leg doesn't work properly. And it was our next door neighbour, Jill, who just happened to be secretary to the manager of the Adelaide airport. She had gone and asked him if her next door neighbour could see the Beatles when they come off the plane.
In 50 Years Adrift, Derek Taylor wrote, "It was like the Messiah came to Australia. Cripples threw away their sticks and blind men leapt for joy."
And as they came down, well, I'd been told to behave myself, of course, and I was being a good girl, until the point that John was coming on my side, but Paul bobbed over the other side. I couldn't help myself, and I yelled out, "Paul!" To which Paul swung around and came over next to John. They both stood there looking at me, and I went, click. And that was my best photo. And just after that, John said, "You're a bit young to be a photographer, aren't you?" And I must have said no, because they burst out laughing.
So they stepped into the car. We pulled our car up so that we were virtually bumper to bumper. And the lads turned around and waved to us.
So I trotted along to the front of the car because I wanted to get to Paul. I had my autograph book. And so I yelled out, "Paul, can I have your autograph?" And he turned around and the car drove off. The manager said that they were only allowed to stay there for 3 minutes because he was scared of a riot. He knew how many people were out there, I had no idea.
Everyone was threatened. If you go to work on the Beatles, you'll be expelled. Well, they wouldn't have had anyone in school because we all went.
If you had a note signed by both your parents, at lunchtime you could go to the town hall. So my mum forged my dad's signature and I got to do that.
Me, I played the wag, went down to the local church where I always went, stuffed my school uniform and behind the toilet was the old cistern on top, went into town. When I got there, I was like, "Geez, where did all these people come from?"
Lining the route from the airport to the town hall were 200,000 people, like more than a third of the population of South Australia.
The whole Anzac Highway was lined up with people, grannies, little children, everyone, a buzz.
We could only go at a snail's pace behind the Beatle. It was just incredible, just a sea of faces and two cars inching along.
It was like Adelaide had suddenly come alive. Everybody was celebrating, except my dad.
I maintained a commentary all the way through, the longest ad lib in Australian radio history. I feel very proud of that. Well, there it is. Everywhere you look, 6 to 12 people wide, all waiting to see their famous sons, the Beatles. And they're getting waves from the Beatles as we go slowly up Anzac Highway. 300,000 people waiting to give the Beatles a great Adelaide book.
Thousand people in front of the town hall area. This is something that's never been seen in Adelaide before. It's absolutely magnificent. Can we have a little bit of quiet, please, and we can talk to each one? What can I say? Quiet, please. Quiet. George Harrison, everybody. What do you think of the reception, George?
It's marvellous. Hello! Hello! It's fabulous. It's the best reception ever.
Best reception ever. Jimmy Nicol, who's taken the place of Ringo Starr. Jimmy Nicol, everybody. Jimmy, how do you feel with the concert tonight in this fabulous crowd?
No, this is the best I've ever seen anywhere in the world. Yeah.
Jimmy Nicol. Jimmy, you're from London, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Have you heard about Ringo and how he's getting on?
Well, I think he's getting a bit better now. Yeah.
That's good. John. Well. As you know, John, Adelaide's only got 1 million people in the whole state, and I think there's about...
They're all here, though, aren't they?
4 of them came out on the balcony and they just stood there and put their thumbs up, waved, we all waved, thinking, yeah, George is looking just at me. It was brilliant, brilliant.
The plan after the Beatles motorcade was for them to arrive at the town hall and be welcomed by the Lord Mayor, just like the Queen had done a decade earlier. They were also due to partake in another press conference for the ABC.
Well, fellas, tell me, what did you think of the Adelaide reception?
That was great. The best ever.
Was it like what I mentioned to you on the plane it would be?
Yeah, it was better.
Yeah.
Was it like anything you've ever had before? No, we've never done one of those drives as well. It was marvellous.
How would it compare with the ones in the United States when you arrived at different states there?
It was bigger. More people there.
Do you think it was very well conducted?
Yes, everybody was well behaved.
Did you get a fright at all outside the town hall?
Shock. You know, it's so many.
Do you ever get this feeling that maybe someone's going to try and knock you off or something?
I had a feeling Mike got shot. Because it's the first time being sitting in the back of a car waving, you know, just like...
You took it. Jimmy, you've played with many, many groups indeed. Would you like to tell me quickly? I know it must be at least a dozen.
Yes, I've played with Saul Stapleton,
yeah.
Oscar Raymond, Billy Fury, John Brown, Francis Fay.
Georgie Fay.
What happened to Georgie Fay?
Jim?
Pardon?
Where's Francis Fay? What happened there? Don't ask him personal questions, Early. No, you went to play the drums, didn't you, Jim?
No, I didn't go down to play the drums. I went down to, enjoy myself.
And how did you get on stage? How did you get up on stage? Did she call you up?
Well, as soon as I walked through the door, she was just finishing her act, about 10 minutes, to the latter part of her act, and she said the Beatles are coming, because everybody turned round, and she invited me back to the dressing room where we had
he didn't tell us about that, did he?
No, where we had a drink, and then the second show, I did the whole lot.
You played drums for a whole act?
Yeah.
She gave you something in return, didn't she, Jim? A little...
She hasn't given me anything yet, but she's going to. She's going to give me all her albums, and also she's having a sweater made for me.
After the press conference and after a reception in Town Hall that lasted about 30 minutes, the Beatles managed to escape the Town Hall out a side door and were driven to their South Australian hotel.
In marked trust, the other Beatle, Ringo Starr, with Vivian Lee taking the same plane, slipped out of London unnoticed to join the group. Ronald Burns asked Ringo if he'd lost money through his illness.
Well, not very much. No, I don't think it's... Oh, it's cost me a lot. You know, money had to be paid, but it doesn't cost me a lot that I've got to pay out.
I see.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me, you know. You can't help being sick. Don't worry about the money.
What sort of reaction have you had from your fans? Have you had lots of letters and messages?
I've had roughly a sack of mail a day at the hospital. They're going out the mine, you know.
Yeah. Would you like to send a message to them now?
Yeah, thanks for everything, you know, for the flowers and the cakes. Squashed up little cakes. And the letters, you know, and telegrams. Millions of telegrams. Just thanks for everything, you know.
Aren't you getting a little fed up of this mass adulation of you everywhere you go?
No, you never get fed up. Believe me, it's good fun.
Meanwhile, back in Adelaide, the others were getting ready to perform the first of 4 concerts in the city.
I had 3 other friends, and we all came rattling down to Adelaide in this old Holden. I went at 6 o'clock and there was an 8 o'clock show. We were in this long queue, just shuffling along down the side of Centennial Hall, getting to the front door to go in.
And everyone tried to dress like them, of course.
One of the guys I remember had a grey suit jacket, and he'd taken the scissors somehow to take the lapel off. And I think his mum probably sewed up the rough edges where he'd done it. So that was his version of a Beatles jacket. I rushed out and bought a pair of Beatle boots. You know, it had the little seam up the middle. It had to be the same boots the Beatles were wearing. It was packed, and there were people outside hoping to hear, and then something would happen. Something would happen on the stage, like the curtain would move or a light would come on, and everybody would go, oh, is this them? Are they coming out? There was that sort of tension there.
No one was that interested in the acts that were on before the Beatles. Everyone was hyped up waiting for the Beatles.
They turned the lights off, and that's when everything started to really get tense because they knew the next act on was going to be the Beatles. Well, Bob Francis, he got up there and he was trying to calm the audience down. Please, we want to hear them now, we want to hear them.
We had been discussing among ourselves how revolting those girls looked. Girls just screaming, like hysterically. It was so shocking to me. I just thought, how ridiculous. You know, I mean, imagine not having any kind of control. Anyway, you're screaming, you're not even going to hear what they're playing. You know, if you're screaming that hard.
As soon as he said, and here they are, the Beatles, it was like a sound, well, it was a sound wave. It just was like whoosh.
And Bob Francis came and said, guess who's arrived next door? And we stood up and went, creamed our tits off.
I don't know what it is. When you saw them, we just sort of overcome and you just joined in the screaming.
You just got sucked along with it, you know what I mean? It was really weird. You can understand all those cult sort of things, you know what I mean, where they all drink Kool-Aid and stuff. It was like that. It was amazing.
The thing I can still remember all those years ago were people banging their feet. And there's noise everywhere in Centennial Hall. It's just infectious. I don't think I was screaming, but I was stamping the feet because everyone else was.
And the PA system, of course, was really strange in those days. It was 2 columns, one either side of the stage. Each column had, I think, 8 little speakers like that in there. So those poor little PA speakers couldn't handle it all. The only thing I can actually remember hearing in the Beatles concert was Can't Buy Me, because it starts with a vocal. Someone got to love, it was like, forget it. And all you got when you're sitting here is the occasional snippet of the song, you know, there's a word or there's a guitar chord and you think, that's I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then I was screaming too. Yes, you couldn't help yourself. Why, I don't know. They were up there, they were my idols.
I mean, they really existed. It wasn't just a hologram. I mean, we didn't know about holograms, but if I'd been close enough, I could have touched them.
After their shows on the 12th, and indeed for the entirety of the tour, they held a private party in their hotel rooms.
Experience with Beatlemania was the girls. There were always literally hundreds, if not thousands, of screaming kids parked outside their hotel. They couldn't go anywhere. I seem to have spent my entire life taking the phone call from girls saying, we're in room so-and-so, can we meet the Beatles? Our job was to keep people away from them, but every so often the road managers would select people to be taken in and meet them.
I think their press manager said, are you girls still here waiting to meet the Beatles? Because he'd seen us
And they said, okay, and he took our names and then invited us in to meet them. We talked about their Beatle boots and Cilla Black, the music.
Oh, that's all I really can't remember how we talked about. Every teenage girl in Australia, it seemed, wanted to meet them. And what we used to suspect, that some of them were having more than a meeting with the Beatles, something for them to remember.
Well, it never entered my head. I don't know about you, but no, nothing like that.
I think they realised we were just
Kids.
Young fans.
Yeah.
They did have girls going into their room because we saw them.
Going up the stairs, the dolly birds, they called them, didn't they?
Yeah.
They looked like models. They weren't like us kids standing on the landing in our homemade clothes.
Australian tour manager Lloyd Ravenscroft confirmed that the band members had girls in their rooms. He said, "That was in the hands of Mal Evans, who was very good at picking the right girls. It was very discreet and well organised. When they were getting involved in that sort of thing, I kept right out the way."
The orgies and the shit that happened on tour and all that, and I wanted a real book to come out, but we all had wives and didn't want to hurt the feelings end of that one, because they still have. You know, I mean, the Beatles tours were like satirical. You know, I mean, we had that image, but man, our tours were like something else. If you could get on our tours, you were in, you know. They were satirical and all that. Yeah, Australia, what? Just everywhere. Satirical, just think of satirical only with 4 musicians going through it. And it's always a whole scene going. We had our 4 bedrooms separate from, tried to keep them out of our room, and Derek and Neil's rooms were always full of junk and whores and fuck knows what, and policemen and everything. Satirical, you know. We really, well, we had to do something. Like anybody, like they're all into now, but they didn't call them groupies then, they called it something else. But if you couldn't get groupies, we'd have whores and everything, whatever was going, you know.
Who would arrange for all that stuff?
Derek and Neil, that was their job. And Mal, but I'm not going into all that.
For the entirety of their time in Adelaide, thousands of fans camped outside their hotel. Before their shows on the 13th, the group held a small reception for their fan club organisers.
Ringo, welcome to Australia. Thank you. Ringo? Sorry.
Hello.
Ringo, welcome to Australia. How do you feel about being here?
Oh, it's great. It's been fun, you know. Thank God I'm off that plane.
How long have you been on it?
34 hours.
Well, you must be just about had it.
No, I had a sleep, you know. I feel fine. Fit and everything.
What's the hardest problem you encounter trying to manage the Beatles?
Well, none really, but I think travelling around and going around the world and making arrangements for moving around is the most difficult thing, because you never know what's going to happen.
Do you have any trouble keeping them in control, or do they try and escape from you?
Oh, no. Never.
We're always with them.
Paul McCartney, I think. John, George, Jimmy Nichols, who's their stand-in drummer. And there they go. They're mounting the special truck. Paul get with this tremendous spirit of enthusiasm, this almost air of abandonment that everybody seems to be showing about the Beatles. I can't help but believe that this is good. If people can, as it were, let their hair down, to use an expression, there goes our Channel 7.
As crazy as the fans were at Melbourne Airport, it was nothing in comparison to the reception at the Southern Cross Hotel.
Any minute now, the Beatles will be arriving at the Southern Cross. Their car is in Burke Street, and the fans are going really mad. Here they come. Here come the Beatles with a police escort, the crowd surging forward, absolutely out of control. Out here in front of the hotel, behind our cameras, where the crowd is absolutely thick. You cannot see an inch of space. All you can see is heads, baskets, and coloured Guernseys. The crowd now has broken down from Collins Street. They're running down Exhibition Street. The Beatles are arriving with a police escort, 2 police cars, a mounted police escort, motorcycle police. This is not the Beatles. This is a diversionary measure. This is a police escort without the Beatles. They fooled the fans. The Beatles are making an entrance through the back of the hotel. This is a diversionary measure. The cars are pulling through. The fans are going mad, but the Beatles aren't here. They're around the back of the hotel. And the screams of disappointment coming from the fans as they realise they've been fooled. The Beatles are around the back. They couldn't have possibly got them through this crowd to the front entrance. And the policeman is being knocked off his bike here. He can't get through the crowd. The policeman's off his bike. The crowd absolutely pushing through. The policeman's come off his bike. They're trying to clear a way through. The crowd's gone mad. The car's going through. The sirens are going and it's hysteria. You can't imagine what it's like here at the Southern Cross. Everyone's going completely mad. People are being trampled in the crowd. The horses are pushing the crowd back. The car's going through. One policeman's been knocked off his motorbike already. To keep the crowd away, the police are having a terrible job trying to get through, and we have never seen anything like this in the history of this country. This is absolutely fantastic. Hysteria has broken out. The police have practically given up. There have been several bad accidents here. People have been trampled. The crowd has broken loose, and everyone is anxiously awaiting the arrival of the Beatles. The buildings are absolutely packed. They're hanging from the roofs. They're hanging from flagpoles. They're everywhere. As you can see now, that is what the crowd is like, completely the length of Exhibition Street between Burke Street and Collins Street. They're trying to force them back now with little success. The chant is "We want the Beatles." Another girl's fainted. Another girl's fainted in the crowd. She's right in the middle of it. She hasn't got a hope of getting out. A policeman got to her. As you can see there, they're trying to get her out. Now, this is the sort of thing the police are trying to cope with. Now, this girl is ill. She's in the centre of the crowd. The crowd is swaying, and she hasn't got a hope of getting out. Everyone making one last effort in the crowd. The crowd are having a lot of fun down there. Some of them are really packed in like sardines, but they're willing to have a joke here. And they're really getting into the swing of things as we wait eagerly for the Beatles. And here come the Beatles. Any minute now they'll appear here on the balcony. Any minute now, we're just waiting for the Beatles to appear. Here comes somebody, and here they are. Here come the Beatles. Here they come. You can't hear them above the shrieks of the crowd. This is the moment they've all been waiting for. Here come the Beatles.
Swept up in the moment, John gave a Nazi salute. Paul and Ringo found it hilarious and joined in, and George drives home the point with a shout of
cobbles. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Throw it down. Go on, throw it down.
Melbourne, and to the Beatles, John, Lennon, Ringo Starr, here he is, Paul McCartney, you do, George Harrison, and for the first time, 5 Beatles, Jimmy Nicol, who will be leaving us tomorrow, who's done marvellous work during the temporary, brief but very grave illness of Ringo Starr.
Very grave. So grave.
We're dividing it, dividing it into 4 parts.
That's not a click. That's not a click. That's a for me. But I've missed you. I've missed you too.
After the chaos of their arrival in Melbourne, they held one of the biggest parties of the tour in their hotel room. They brought in local girls and partied until 4 a.m. Jimmy Nicol wasn't present, and instead he managed to raise Brian's anger during his final hours after he decided to enjoy the Australian nightlife one more time. Borrowing a car, he stealthily left the hotel for a few drinks to the nearby pub, violating Brian's midnight curfew. Within half an hour, he was hunted down by Mal and Derek Taylor. It was just a few hours later that Brian saw Jimmy off, where he gifted him with a gold watch and £500. In the afternoon, after sleeping in after their all-night party, John sat down for an interview with Malcolm Searle.
This tour is going to be all too short for your fans here. And the next thing we'll see of the Beatles is the film.
The film, yes.
Now, tell us about the film. We haven't heard a great deal about it.
Well, you know, it's us sort of meant to be acting, which we can't, but they've got a good director, you know, so they sort of almost make you act, you know, they cut it so well. You know, you do about an hour's rubbish, and he takes a minute out of it, and it looks as though you're doing quite well.
Now, is it an ad-lib film? Did you just go onto the set and carry on, or is there a storyline?
Some of it was ad-lib. Some, you know, they definitely had a script. It was written by Alan Owen, who writes good TV scripts.
Yeah.
And, well, we changed a lot, but it was a bit of trouble for the established actors, because we wouldn't give them the tagline, you know.
Well, Wilfred Bramble, of course, Steptoe.
Yeah.
He was in the movie with you. Did he have any problems with you as a group carrying on like this?
Just the first, till we got to know him, you know, but he's one of, you know, one of those good people that can fit in anywhere, and he fits in good. Yeah. And he sort of got, you know, we found our level.
Had you a chance to get to know him, or vice versa?
Oh yes, we got to know him. Well, we were on it for about 8 weeks, you know. You do get, and he's in it throughout the film. And we got to know him well, you know. He's a laugh.
Now, in some of the press and television interviews you did yesterday, someone said to you, "Are you religious?" I think it was you. I said no. Now, does this mean you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in religion?
Well, you know, we settle for calling ourselves agnostics, because we don't, you know.
Yeah. And another question you were popped yesterday was about sport. Now, Australia's a great sport-loving nation. I think a lot of people may have been a little bit upset by your answer that you didn't like sport.
Well, we can't be everything to everybody, you know, at all times, or whatever they say. We're agnostic about sport, too.
What about when you were young, when you were kids? In Liverpool, did you pursue any sport there?
Oh, yes, when you're a kid. I mean, it's not some sort of a big... It's just it's just something to do. And we used to play football, and I did when I was about... Gave it up at 14, you know. That's when you discover the other things, isn't it?
Well, I was talking to Mimi on the plane coming over, and she said that when you were young, you were very serious. You did a lot of writing as an 8-year-old. And some of the stuff in your book, actually, she said you'd written when you were 8. Is this?
Well, no, she got it wrong there, Mimi, didn't you, if you're watching? No, I wasn't never serious. I was serious about writing, you know, although I laughed when I wrote it. But she means serious in as much as I said, keep it and stop throwing it away,
yes, yes.
You know. But I was never serious.
Now, you mentioned Brian. I was going to mention it. How did you get associated with Brian Epstein, and how much do you feel you owe him?
Well, we owe him 1 and 6 exactly, but we owe a lot of our success to him, you know, a great deal.
Yes.
Because I think we might have been able to make hit records because we would have written the songs anyway. This one's run out, and but we wouldn't have gone. We wouldn't have. He controlled us, you see. Anybody that tried to manage us earlier on couldn't get through to us, you know. They'd last about a week, and we'd say, we're not having you.
So he's more or less gotten you and taken full control.
Yes, but he didn't take over as some people do, right, as if he just sort of walked in and said, right, cut your hair like that, put this suit on, any of that. You know, we were already there, but he just sort of, people sort of said we were dirty. Well, we weren't dirty, we were just in jeans because we couldn't afford anything else, you know.
A lot of people have said that Epstein has emerged as a genius of show business. Do you agree with this?
Well, I'm a bit odd, you know, I don't like using the word genius, but there's so many geniuses on LP covers and things like that, that I think he's done more than anybody expected him to do, which entitles people that don't know what's happening to call him a genius. He's very good. I wouldn't say he's a genius.
I want to ask you one direct personal question. Is he a friend?
Oh, definitely. You see, we can't get on with anybody for a long time unless they are a friend, because we're so closely knit.
I've noticed this with the others in your entourage. How many of them are really very close to you?
Well, Neil, he's our personal road manager. Well, he was in from the start. He went to school with Paul and George. And the other fellow, Derek, we've known for about a year. But he's sort of one of those people that clicked as soon as you meet him, you know. So that, and Malcolm, we've known from the cabin. He carries the guitars round, you know, and all that. Well, he used to work at the cabin, the big bouncy, throwing all teddy boys out, you know.
Before their first two concerts in Melbourne, EMI held a reception for the group at their hotel. EMI executives felt the wrath of a furious John Lennon when he saw that EMI had designed a different sleeve with the Beatles cover in Australia. Over the course of 3 nights, the Beatles played 6 shows in Melbourne to 45,000 fans. After the first night, they attended a party in Toorak, one of the country's most exclusive suburbs.
This is dignified Beatlemania on the standards of last weekend. 1,500 to 2,000 people crammed in between the approaches to the Melbourne Town Hall and the Capitol Theatre in Swanston Street, waiting still for the arrival of the Beatles, who are to be the guests of honour at today's civic reception. High up on the buildings there are streamers floating down, torn up office paper, balloons from the windows. But it's a very orderly crowd, waiting, occasionally calling, "We want the Beatles." Listen to that roar. The Beatles on the balcony with the Lord Mayor, Councillor Curtis. From high up above, streamers cascading down from the Manchester Unity building, from Capitol House, arms waving down in the street where blocked thick are some 1,500 to 2,000 lunchtime people here to greet the Beatles with the time right on 1 o'clock. They're getting in 3 separate pictures.
The mayor had foolishly given tickets for the reception to any fan who rode in, and the reception, planned for 150 people, had swelled to 350. And pandemonium ensued inside the town hall, and the Beatles were quickly whisked away to the mayor's wife's chambers. There they relaxed and sat around listening to a university student play the didgeridoo and joining the mayor's family in a sing-song around the piano, which Paul played. And they actually stayed half an hour longer than planned, and the event was described as the most happy, informal moment since the tour began.
Melbourne is about to recover. Sydney is about to be hit. So it was perhaps just as well that the news of a possible return visit by the Beatles should come from the national capital. Their manager, Brian Epstein, told a National Press Club luncheon today that he hoped he would be able to return to Australia with the Beatles if they could maintain their present popularity here. Mr. Epstein was not able to give a date, but he thought it would be at least a year before they would be coming back. Although we're missing out on the Beatles, Canberra is not immune to Beatlemania. The guests of the National Press Club in the past have included cabinet ministers, ambassadors, high commissioners, writers and professors. But which luncheon was the best attended, provoked the most interest, and went half an hour longer than usual? That's right, today's. Even cynical newsmen, it seems, don't want to stay in a world without love for the Beatles. Sam Lipsky, Canberra.
On June 17th, George managed to escape the hotel, hiding in a car under blankets, and he headed to the Dandenong Mountains for a drive in an MG. He even stopped for lunch at the Ken Lock estate, owned by Kath Martin. At the final show in Melbourne, a fan rushed to the stage and shook hands with John before just casually walking off.
They'll really get a welcome. They'll hear over the sound of their engines as they come round here onto the main part of the tarmac.
And here we have the Beatles plane arriving. The crowd at this stage is swelled up to 3,000 to 3,500. And as you can hear, they're getting their throats right in tune to see the Beatles step off this answered plane. The tax singing, they've been talking and posing too, I might mention. But here comes the plane round, and I'll take it over because there is so much noise going on here, I'm sure, that you can't possibly hear what I have to say. And not from our channel, incidentally, but he was allowed to go. He kept on photographing the two Commonwealth policemen, who I must admit have been practicing forbearance and patience all morning. However, he's gone to the other side to get his pictures, and I'm sure that he'll get his job completed. They're now going right round the back of the crowd, and there's been a rush over to the other barrier on the far side so that they can see just what is happening over there.
The routine continued in Sydney. An airport welcome, balcony appearances, 2 shows a night, followed by parties with local girls after their shows. Their first night in Sydney was June 18th, Paul's birthday. For the occasion, they had 2 parties. One in the afternoon with Bob Rogers, and another in the evening featuring the winners of a Daily Mirror newspaper contest.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Paul.
Thank you fellas, thank you fellas.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Paul. On behalf of 2SM, our listeners and all the good guys, we present you with this kangaroo to take back and remember your trip to Australia.
Thank you very much. No, really lovely. A better kangaroo I've yet to see. And this card is truly wonderful, fantastic.
How about Mad Mel's scarf, which you haven't yet seen?
Well, we're not going to talk about him, are we? No. Just ignore him. You know, it's great. There it is over there. No idea how I'm going to get back to England, but it's great. I love it.
Paul, from all 2SM listeners and everybody in Sydney, a very happy birthday. We're honoured that you celebrated your 22nd with us.
Thank you, Bob.
This thing, Ringo, is called a kazoo. Have you ever seen one before?
No, I've heard of one, though. It's sort of...
Has the kazoo movement swept England at all, or not?
No. Why is it a big thing over here?
It is. We're trying to get leaders of various countries to play kazoos because we feel this could ease international tension.
Yeah. It could do, actually.
With shows on the 18th, 19th and 20th, they had their parties every night. After one of these after-show parties in Sydney, John took a liking to 17-year-old Chinese Australian Jenny Key.
They haven't proved a bit. They want to see this plane take off for New Zealand with the Beatles aboard. The Beatles as popular as ever, and a big crowd out here today.